Good evening. If we can all come to our seats so we can get started. Barbara, we're going to get started, so you can come up on the dais now. Rob, I'm ready. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my steps, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenally, come on, phenomenal woman. Let me hear you. That's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, I ought to make you proud. I say it's in the click of my heels, the palm of my hand, the need for my care, because we are women, phenomenally, phenomenal women. That's the WBA. Let's give a round of applause to the late Maya Angelou, the author of this poem, who was a phenomenal woman herself, and to all the phenomenal women here tonight and the men who support us. Good evening and welcome to the sold out 2019 Women's Bar Association and Foundation Annual Dinner. My name is Yolanda Hawkins Bautista, and I am the president of the Women's Bar Association of the District of Columbia. On behalf of the WBA, the Foundation Boards of Directors, we are delighted that you have joined us this evening. Our theme for this bar year is Dare to Make an Impact, which acknowledges that while we have made great advances over the past 102 years in putting women on equal footing as men, there is still work to be done. Now is not the time to be fatigued or discouraged. We must continue to stand up and be heard. This year, in furtherance of this goal, we provided a voice on legislation that impacts women and girls, developed solutions to age-old problems within our profession, became more involved with the community, and offered our legal expertise to organizations that support our cause. I am honored to be joined this evening by our keynote speaker, Barbara Starr, and our Woman Lawyer of the Year, Lori Robinson Hayden. Also joining me this evening is our President of the Foundation, Bridget Bailey Lipscomb, and our WBA President-elect, Jill Dash. I'd like to take a few moments to recognize some of those who have made this evening possible. First, to our sponsors, thank you for your generosity. At the leadership level, Freddie Mac, my company, T-Mobile, Wow, Gottschall and Manges LLP. Also, our benefactor level sponsors, American Constitution Society, Cornerstone Research, DLA Piper LLP, Latham and Watkins, Mitchell Silverberg and Knupp LLP, Venerable LLP, and Williams and Connolly LLP. I would also like to thank the many firms and individuals who have sponsored tonight's events as underwriters, advocates, and friends. The list is far too great for me to acknowledge each one individually. You can find the names of all our contributing sponsors displayed on the screen during dinner and listed in our programs. Without your support, we could not do the great work that we do throughout the year. Also, while you are looking at your program book, you will notice that there are 4 different covers to represent the diversity of the WBA. At this time, I would like to thank and recognize the WBA leadership for this bar year. I'd like to recognize the 2018-2019 officers and board members and ask them to come to the front of the stage, or in Jill's case, just stand. President-elect Jill Dash, Treasurer Judith Del Guadrado Zimmerman, Treasurer-elect Sasha Haas-Wren, stand over there. Secretary Lauren Brown, Ann Collier, Elaine Fitch, Cynthia Hempfield, Elizabeth Roman Jones, Charlotte Coonan, Rebecca Pribel, Sedina Montani, Kathy Pagano, Anna Ratner, Charlene Johansson, and Roya Vasegi. And immediate past President Carrie Castellini. Thank you for your leadership and supporting this past year, and it is through your commitment and the hard work that has made this a successful bar year. Your passion for our mission and dedication on behalf of the members is greatly appreciated. Our past presidents are a group of women who personifies Dare to Make an Impact. They are true champions of the organizations, its members, and the profession as a whole. I would like to thank them for their continued support. Will the past presidents here with us tonight come to the front of the stage? Actually, Sonia. There's a lot of them. Thank you. Next, I would like to ask our co-chairs of our committees and forums to come forward. With 34 committees and forums, and co-chairs are the face of the WBA throughout the year as they provide the programming and lead us in our day-to-day activities. Get closer. Thank you all for your energy and enthusiasm throughout the year. You ladies truly made an impact this year by continuing with the important programming that our members expect and appreciate. Please give a round of applause to these phenomenal women that stand before you. This is the leadership of the WBA that work tirelessly to help us shine the light on issues that impact women. The WBA could not run without Carol Montoya and her staff at the Potomac Management Resources. Thank you all. Thank you for all you do. Next, I would like to recognize special guests in the audience. Please stand as I call your name. Joining us tonight is DC's own Andrea Roan, former CBS WUSA anchorwoman, Council Member Todd from Ward 4, the District of Columbia General Counsel Betsy Cavendish, and all the judges in the room. And my WBA sister, Karen Lockwood. I am a part of the WBA today because Karen volunteered me to join the WBA and to get involved. Thank you. I would like to take a moment to say thank you to my mom and dad and the rest of my family and friends for being here tonight and for their continued support. And thank you, Freddie Mac, for your sponsorship at the leadership level and for all my colleagues who are present this evening. To my daughter, Eliana, thank you for being such a smart and funny little girl who knows how to put a smile on mommy's face. Now, I told Eliana a couple days ago that my term is up as president of the WBA, and she said, well, now you can become the president of the White House, and I will become the president of the WBA. Problem solved. And my husband unwisely asked her, well, what would I do? She said, well, you could be the janitor and clean up the White House for mommy. Problem solved. So Jill, watch out. Someone is angling to impeach you. Finally, I want to thank my husband, Leo, who's pretty much been a single parent for this bar year, for being my rock and for your understanding of my evenings spent at the WBA activities. With you in my corner, there's nothing I cannot do. I appreciate all the love and support. We are very excited tonight about tonight's program. We will hear from the WBA Foundation President, Bridget Bailey-Lipscomb, to talk about the Do More 24, followed by tonight's phenomenal keynote speaker, Barbara Starr. After dinner, we'll have reports for the status of the WBA and Foundation and present the Woman Lawyer of the Year Award. And we will close out this evening with remarks from incoming President Jill Dash.
Thank you, Yolanda. As the charitable arm of the Women's Bar Association, our mission is to support nonprofits that serve the legal and related needs of women and girls in DC. We have a golden opportunity tonight. For the second year in a row, Do More 24 is on the day of our annual dinner. For those of you who haven't turned on your phones today, Do More 24 is the largest 24-hour online fundraiser in DC. It's powered by United Way of the National Capital Area. So if you support the Foundation's efforts and have not had a chance to share your gift, or if you'd like to share another gift, we will make it easy for you. Pull out your phones. You can take them out now. Go to www.domore24.org. Hit the donate button. Go to organizations and type in Women's Bar Association Foundation DC. If everyone in this room donated $20, we could make a difference in the lives of many, many more women and girls in DC. We will tell you a lot more about our programs later, but we wanted to let you know that thus far we've raised $1,259. We can do better. If everyone in this room contributed something, we could make an impact in DC. Of course, no amount is too small or too large. So pull out those phones, and we thank you for your support.
I'm all about breaking records. What we need to do to get to that record? Come on, you can do $20, right? I am very excited to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Barbara Starr, CNN's Pentagon correspondent. Ms. Starr appears regularly on The Situation Room with Blitzer, New Day, and other shows across the network, breaking big news and delivering exclusive coverage on the U.S. military and political situation on a global scale. Throughout her career, Ms. Starr has made repeated trips to Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa, and she has reported twice from Syria. She traveled to Beirut, Lebanon in 2006 with the U.S. Marines tasked with evacuating Americans during the Israel war with Hezbollah. Ms. Starr has also reported directly from the Persian Gulf, Russia, Central America, and Chinese North Korean border. Throughout her career, Ms. Starr has profiled numerous wounded troops, the plight of homeless veterans, and reported on the fallen regularly from Section 60 at the Arlington National Cemetery, the final resting place for veterans of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Without further ado, Ms. Barbara Starr.
I want to thank you all so much for having me here tonight. What a beautiful evening. It really is. And when I knew I was going to come here, of course, my first thought is, well, I'm not an attorney. What can I possibly have to say that would be interesting? I was grateful to make it out of Media Law 101 back in journalism school, actually alive. And my parents were grateful too, because it made me graduate. So I'm not an attorney, but then I saw your theme for the evening, Dare to Make an Impact. And then I knew. Then I had no problem. I knew exactly what I wanted to chat about tonight. So I, of course, cover the military for CNN. And if you think about it, and you think about the First Amendment, there are perhaps no two groups, no two professions in America that dare to make an impact every day more, I would say, than journalists who bring news and communication to the world, and of course also U.S. troops defending the nation, trying to bring stability to troubled areas. If you think about it for a second, there's no two other occupations that are so legally protected. Of course, first responders, law enforcement, all of that, absolutely. But for journalists and the military, like law enforcement, like first responders, we are obligated to do everything to tell the truth, exercise free speech, communicate, and for the military, of course, to lay down their lives as we approach Memorial Day, worth remembering always, for defense of the Constitution. So we're not going to talk about politics tonight. We're going to talk about the defense of freedom. And it actually made me go back and look up the First Amendment, which I haven't read often enough, apparently. The First Amendment mandates, as everyone in this room knows better than me, there shall be no law abridging freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So the press and freedom of speech is protected in this Constitution. I am not an attorney, but it was interesting. I spoke to two military attorneys before I came here, and I said, so what should I talk about when I talk about freedom of speech? And they looked at me like, really, Barbara? Really? Have you looked up any of the cases? Literally, they said this to me, two Army attorneys. Look up the cases of Justice Ginsburg. You need go no further in the law than to understand her absolute towering presence in this country in the protection of free speech, regardless of politics. So that's the press side. Let me talk to you about the military for just a moment. Bear with me. From the moment the terrorists struck the Pentagon on 9/11, and I always do say, yes, I was inside the building when the plane hit, and yes, September 11th is my birthday, and yes, thankfully, my sister was able to call her, at the time, very elderly parents and say I was fine. But since then, in my travels that you sort of heard about, I have seen nothing but extraordinary moments in the lives of American troops and their families, each one daring to make an impact, daring to make a difference. I met Andrew, a United States Marine who lost both legs in Iraq, and he told me afterwards as we talked, and I interviewed him, that every day he continues to make the decision to get up and live. He enrolled in Harvard. Greg, United States Army, also lost both legs in Iraq, absolutely refused to sit down. He had some of the first Bluetooth prosthetic legs, and he just kept moving. Mary, a young Army soldier, she lost both arms at the shoulder when a bomb she was trying to defuse in Iraq blew her arms off. She told me when I first met her and interviewed her, you want to talk about women in combat? She told me that she wanted to feel beautiful just one more time in her life. Today, she is a wonderful woman, and she is absolutely gorgeous. Dawn, a U.S. Army soldier, She had gone to West Point and was a basketball star there. She lost an arm in a roadside bomb. When I met her in occupational therapy at Walter Reed, she was trying to work out a way for the occupational therapists at the time, and this was several years ago, to show her how to put her clothes on by herself with one arm. Today, she is one of the most successful small business women here in Washington, D.C. The privilege of my career was to ride a 41-hour medevac rotation out of Afghanistan a few years ago when it was the surge, and sadly there were a lot of wounded troops. On this cargo plane, this medevac, we had stretchers stacked up 3 tall. One young soldier had a shattered jaw. We conducted that interview with me on the camera asking him questions, him, of course, writing down his answers because he couldn't speak, and then me reading the answers to the camera. One young soldier on that plane was in really rough shape. He had been shot by a sniper just below where his armored vest ended. But he chatted, he was able to. And that young man, you want to talk about daring to make an impact, daring to make a difference. About 6 months after that medical flight, I was down at Fort Campbell, standing in the morning line to get coffee, and this young soldier comes up to me in his workout clothes. Miss Starr, you interviewed me. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I do meet a lot of troops, tell me where we met. And he started talking, and I was absolutely thunderstruck. This was the young man I had met on the medevac plane who had been shot by a sniper. He dared to make an impact, dared to make a difference. He was preparing to deploy again back to the war zone. He wanted to keep going. But I'll tell you, sometimes it's the troops you never get to meet that make the most impact. So I want to tell you about a World War II soldier I never met, of course. William Leonard, United States Army, fought across France in 1944. His platoon was hit repeatedly with blistering fire from German Nazi positions. He had several wounded in his platoon. He led an assault even as bullets hit him in the back, and he continued his relentless advance. He killed adversaries, Nazis, at 50 yards with his rifle. William Leonard returned home from the war. He worked in the automotive industry, he worked as a butcher, and he finally retired from a radiator company. He passed away 5 days before his 72nd birthday as he sat in his backyard in a chair listening to a New York Yankees game on the radio. On March 18th, 2014, President Obama presented his family posthumously with his Medal of Honor, the highest recognition for troops in combat. So when I think about all of this, it just brings me back. It brings me back to, as we approach Memorial Day, the men and women who every day are out there making a difference even when nobody reports on them. The journalists who have sacrificed so much, from Daniel Pearl's 2002 slaughter by terrorists in Pakistan to the Washington Post Jamal Khashoggi's murder in a Saudi diplomatic facility in Turkey. It's been a dangerous year for journalists to shed light in the dark corners of the world. So what I want to do is close by telling you the third part of the triangle. There's troops, there are journalists, but there is the legal profession. We need you now more than ever. We need each and every one of you, please, every day. Step before a judge, step before a jury. Think of Justice Ginsburg, think of all who sacrificed for freedom of speech and the right to speak, whatever their beliefs, and represent the freedoms enshrined in the law. It is the legal profession and the protection of the law that allows light to be shed in some of the darkest corners of the world. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Can we have another round of applause for Ms. Barbara Starr? Now we will break for dinner before continuing with our program. Enjoy.